Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Masters of Self University podcast. My name is Ellie Lee.
And I'm Danny Morley.
And welcome. We are so excited to be here with you. We have so much to talk about, so much to discuss. Danny and I are currently being certified to become coaches at Masters of Self University. And today, Danny, you're in the hot chair tonight. All right, I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions. So first of all, how are you feeling? I know you just finished class.
I did just finish class, so that means I just finished crying because every time I drop into class, there is some tears, some deep emotions that come up, and one of our coaches, Alejandro, just went through a very deep healing, and I was right there with him, and it was great. I always feel very light, very very enthused for the week. Thursdays are my favorite day, and now I get to do this with you beautiful soul. So I'm just very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you too. And you and I just met a week ago. Literally, guys, we met a week, but I feel like we have created such a solid friendship and bond together. And I know that the first time you and I spoke, I was like, okay, so how did you get to MSU? Like, how did you find? So could you tell me a little bit about your story before you found Rachel and MSU?
Yeah. So my story with all this work begins when I was in Hawaii. I was living in Hawaii. Originally, I'm from the UK, but I've been living in the US for the last 8 years. And I was out in Hawaii, and it was a rainy day, and I ended up doing a little email scholarship for my university. And I ended up getting a scholarship for a leadership degree, a master's in leadership. And that degree really focused on authentic leadership. So the more authentic you could be as a person, the more, I'll define that as the more congruent you are with your thoughts, feelings, actions, values, behaviors. When it's all aligned for who you truly are and what you believe in, then you can be an authentic leader. So the whole degree was about self-awareness and self-regulation. So this work started for me in 2015, but in a much more studious way. It was very theoretical. But the reason why I really liked the degree, it was very practical because we actually put it into our lives. And then I tried out management. I hated it, and I didn't know where my life was going to go. And then 2018 led me into a dark depression. I had severe depression and anxiety. And from there, it really awakened something within me. Spiritually, I started growing and looking for deeper answers to everything, and grew and grew and grew. And I realized I wanted to teach what I'd been learning, but I needed a teacher. I needed someone to guide me, and I was looking for that guide for a few years. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts and reading a lot of books, and eventually I heard Rachel Fiori on Paul Chek's podcast, and something about the way she used her words, her program that she talked of, the Mystical Life Coach certification, it spoke to me deep inside, and I could not stop thinking about this thing. It was on my mind 24/7, and eventually I applied. I didn't quite get the response immediately, and so I reached out to her, and turns out the response was in my spam email. And here I am now, 3 months into the program, super excited, had so much healing already in these past 3 months, and still feel like it's only getting going. So, yeah.
You know, you talk about having really deep depression like in 2018, but growing up as a kid, like did you struggle with a lot of like quote unquote mental illness is what they call it? Did you struggle with anything like that, or were you like a very happy like growing up child and then it hit you when you were an adult?
So I first experienced anxiety when I was 8. I was around 8, and I had no idea what it was. And I remember calling up my mother and being like, "Hi, Mom. I feel like I've realized that we're finite beings and that when we die, we're nothing." And I had this huge existential crisis. I was like, I realized that we're nothing and this life is meaningless and blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't control my thoughts. My heart was racing. All the symptoms, just had anxiety, but didn't know what it was when I was 8. And my mum didn't have the vocabulary at the time to be like, "Oh, this is anxiety. You're just going through a bit of a spiritual crisis. That's all good." So it was deep. It was implanted in me as a kid. And then growing up, I was very happy. I think I suppressed a lot of it and I worked through it, but it was very suppressed. And so then in my mid-20s, my psyche cracked open and all of the trauma and the anxiety and depression came out. And now I look back, when I got still enough, I could feel it. It was always underlying, it was always there, but I did a great job in smiling through it, and I used to use a lot of alcohol for suppressing and avoiding and escaping the reality of the present moment. And so now I'm in a process of going back through all of my life and healing those wounds and not suppressing anything and trying to do the opposite, right? Get as still as possible, as present as possible, and as healed as possible.
Yeah, no, it's a road we're on. I'll say that. It's quite a road that we're on. So becoming a mystical life coach, like this is truly a career shift. This is something that it calls us very deeply. And so what made you really take that leap? Because I know that you were really excited to like even get the email back and all of these things, but what made you really know in your heart of hearts, like this is definitely for me?
A calling. It's exactly that. It's in the heart. Something deep inside was pushing me towards where I am right now. Not being happy enough with the life that I was leading. For the last 10 years, I've worked in luxury hospitality. I currently work for the Ritz-Carlton. And it's, it can be a great career. But it just wasn't fulfilling for me. So there was a deep driver inside to do something that really resonated with what I believe I'm here to do. And does that answer your question?
Absolutely. When I describe Rachel Fiori to people, I say, if you want to get an ass whooping, then you can go check her out. But if you're not ready to be ripped open, do not check her out. So I think it's interesting. She has so many men students. I think that's really interesting because I think men, because, of patriarchy and the society we live in, the ego comes in and goes, "Oh my God, like you don't want to be taught by a woman, all this stuff." But then I see all the men that are in this program that are being certified and coaching, and you guys are just like next level. So what is it? I know that you talked a lot about the way that she spoke, but I know that you and I also discussed like this groundedness about Rachel and her teachings. Can you give us a little bit on that?
Yeah, she sits in this place of truth, and she can speak straight to your soul without you drifting off into the realms of spirituality. She's extremely grounded here and as a human on earth, and that is incredibly powerful, and especially coming from a place where you don't really understand all this spirituality, maybe lingo that comes into talk whenever you're talking about inner healing and mental and emotional mastery, and she really just brings a huge amount of presence and wisdom, and it just comes from this place of knowing rather than just like a textbook. It doesn't feel like she's reading from a textbook. It feels like she's talking from real experience that she's had, and I've not found that in anyone else. The only person that she reminds me of is Wim Hof in certain ways, just in the ways that he's so grounded in the here and the now, and she's like that as well. Very powerful beings.
Yes, and I feel like when she, what's that thing? It's like a conch. Like, what do you like do? Bopuru? Like, what's that? Is that a conch?
That's the conch.
Yeah, that's the conch. I feel like she like just blew into the conch, and then the ones that were meant to follow her were like, oh, okay, here we go. And exactly, yeah, and I think that's why we are here in this place. But yes, I totally agree with you. She has a power to her. And I told her, I was like, you're very intimidating, but the moment I speak to you, I feel light. All I just feel is so light. And I think that is really the characteristics of an enlightened being. It's having this like resonance, but then when you speak, it's this like flow. It's this like it's just this fresh lightness that I feel. So it's really incredible. She has really shown me like where we can really go in this life when we go inside. So yeah, shout out to Rachel. We love you so much. Obviously, yes.
I also feel like one of the aspects about her is she's mastered the art of both divine masculine and divine feminine.
Oh,
so yes, we're born as, like I'm born as a man, you're born as a woman, but we both have these archetypal energies within us. And she knows how to go into her divine masculine and get very direct and straight to the point. And I think as you were talking to earlier, like us as men, we really resonate with that. And we can really get behind that. So when she's in that zone talking truth, and just in class today, she was doing it and I was in awe, and had a few revelations of the inner workings of her and how she's so effective at what she does. But part of it is the power, but the power coming from the divine masculine, there to protect and serve. And it's beautiful to watch and feel her do that. The more I become attuned to the subtle energies within myself, I'm starting to notice it more in her. And so I'm starting to pick up more on her magic, and I'm hoping to gain some of that magic myself one day.
Yes, you got the magic. You got the magic.
We've all got the magic.
We've
That's
all got the
truth.
magic. Yes.
We've all got the magic. And she's been able to open herself to the magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful. I think before I signed up for this program, like I remember having a consultation with her, and the whole time I was just like, I was trying not to freak out. So I was totally just like freaking out. I'm like, this woman, she's calling me. I know my whole body is vibrating. And then when I signed up, you think you're gonna know what the next 6 months are, but you don't really know what the next 6 months are. So what were kind of the notions you had before you started the program, and did it change as you started really doing the work and, being in every class?
Yeah, well, the classes started out, the first couple, like pretty mellow. You don't want to jump straight into the deep end. And I'd say like for me, there's been two kind of phases of this program. And the first phase was kind of like a slow walk into the ocean. And then the second phase was more of okay, let's go jump off the diving board now. And for me, the first phase of my healing, it was all about clearing this wound I had from my mother leaving, and it was a lot of sadness. And once I got rid of that, then I had to figure out, okay, well, now this big wound's gone. Now I've really got to hone in this skill of going inside and connecting to my heart. And that was actually more challenging because it was more subtle, it was finer, it took more finesse. And just last week I had my first experience where I really was able to get into my heart and embraced by what I now understand finally, after being on this journey for a while, of what self-love actually is. And I always, the last couple of years, I've been looking at self-love, and I thought, self-love is taking care of yourself, and it is, that is part of it for sure. Then I read David Hawkins' book, The Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender, and a lot of his work I see in her teachings. Clearly it comes from the same place. And then I started understanding, maybe self-love is a little bit more of letting go of these lower vibrations. And then I was like, well, how do you do that? And now I'm working with Rachel. It's, you have to learn to love every aspect of your lower vibrations. And that's what this last 3 months has been for me, is when something comes up, you got to learn to love it.
I think that people don't, you hear about transformation, right? But I think it's until you experience what true transformation is where you can really stand behind that and go, this is what it was like for me. So you've been in this program for 3 months. What's been the most monumental moment for you where like the first thing that like hits you like a ton of bricks? Like, you know, when she's like talking sometimes and like you have this moment, you're like, oh my God, you know, can you recall a moment like that where you had in class?
I've got 3.
Ooh.
So the first one is the one that I just mentioned, and it was that wasn't the first one. That's the first one that comes to mind. The first one in class was just when she was able to first really get in there and show me my inner child. Oof. And I've been trying to work with my inner child with talk therapy for the last, I think I'd say about 2 years. And it was mildly effective.
Sure.
But as soon as I brought up, it was the week that we started learning about emotional wounds. And she was able to guide me into my wound, as I mentioned earlier, the mummy abandonment wound that I had. It was incredible. I was there inside my own self with my inner child, connecting to my inner child, teaching this kid how to grow his light and love what's happening to him. And since then, you know, the healing that's happened since then has been huge. I've noticed the things that affected me in certain ways, especially around women, where I'd maybe get really insecure. They don't carry the same weight anymore. And so that was the first big one in class, the first big one out of class, and this was a really big one. As I mentioned before, I've suffered from depression for a while. And anyone that's listening to this that's suffered from that, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a space that you enter and it carries a particular very heavy weight. And when you get in it, it's very hard to get out of it, at least in my experience. And I woke up one morning, and for the last 3 years, sometimes these waves of depression would come and I would kind of get lost in it for a while. But this wave of depression came and I felt it. And instead of resisting it and worrying about it, which I would do in the past, expecting to know what's coming, I was able to just drop in and love the depression. And I felt it. I wasn't afraid of it. There was no fear behind it. I just loved it. And within 2 minutes, the feeling completely dissolved. And I was able to go about my day as normal. I did arrive at work, and one of the bartenders, who's very in tune to energy, was like, "You seem a little down today." And I was like, "Yeah." And then that could have caused another spiral. Sure. But I just loved that. I loved it. And by the afternoon, I was back to my cheery, chipper self. So that day was huge. That was a really big day for me, because that was like me really taking back power of my own journey of healing. And it showed to me that these things of depression, anxiety, yes, they're real, but they're also programs, and they really can be transformed.
Drop the mic on that story. I can relate to you so much. I resonate with you so deeply, because as someone that has deeply struggled with depression, anxiety my whole life, when you work from the mind and you don't come from heart, the mind makes these energies so much bigger, so much darker. And they overtook me for so long because I kept feeding it, you know? And I think the moment that you start to understand that you can love it is the moment that you take all the power that you've been feeding it away. And it is so transformational and so monumental. And I just appreciate that story, because it really shows me like, man, like this is the work. Like this is the work. This is the key that I have been searching for, because I think you and I can relate to this. The spiritual world can be very like, what's going on? You can get lost in the sauce. That's why I say you get lost in the sauce sometimes. And understanding that all of the work that you need and all the tools that you need are within is massive. That you don't need anything outside of you. And I think that's what's so amazing about this work is she even, I remember she had this class where she was like, even your meditation music, get rid of it. She's like, because that is outside of you. And I am teaching you that you need nothing but you. And that really hit me because I was like, this is truly radical self-love. Like truly, back to what you were talking about, self-love. Because in society, what is self-love? Like, oh, like take a bath, like go get your nails done, like make sure your body is tight, like all this stuff. But in reality, that's still just focusing on the external and not focusing on the internal. And so radical self-love is loving every part of you. And so I think that story is really going to transcend. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
As you said, you are a bartender, and I know just speaking with you for a week, that's not in necessarily alignment with you. But now that you are in this program and you're becoming certified and you will be a coach in 2022, Danny, you're going to be a coach, okay? Like you're going to be coaching people. What does that feel like for you? How does the shift feel for you? And what comes up when I even talk to you about leaving this old, very 3D life and job and entering this job that's just full of everything that lights you up?
Yeah. There's a lot of energy behind it. I've noticed just there is an abundant amount of energy when I'm doing something that I believe is more aligned towards my purpose. And whenever, like, I could talk to you on these podcasts all day and have probably not eat and be totally fine, but when I'm at work, it drives me nuts. I'm just moving past that phase of my life, and super excited for the prospects of the future. It's a completely different feeling to be doing something or working towards something that you're really passionate about. And I'm ready to get going now, but I've got a month left of work until the hotel closes and until I graduate from this course. And I'm ready to serve. That's really what it comes down to. I feel like the last 3-4 years of my life have been about going inwards and learning. And now I want to help spread what I've learned and help people heal. That's what it's about, right? Yeah.
Yes. I think a lot of people who are listening to this could probably resonate with being at a job that doesn't serve you or it's not aligned with you. How do you, with all of this work that you've learned of how much time you put into yourself, how do you stay in the light when you're in such an environment where there seems to be no light? Sometimes I'm in environments I'm like, so what? We're just like all chilling in the dark. Like we're not like going to be illuminated in any way. How do you maintain that frequency and that vibration?
It's tough and it's not always possible. And I've learned to have a lot of grace with myself whenever I'm not staying in that, because that's part of it. Because again, there's no judgment if I fall out of the light, because that's not what self-love is. And the more that I judge myself for not being perfect, that's the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here. So, I do my best, but it really comes down to a few things. Morning and night, I do 10 to 30 minutes of heart meditation. The practice that it's technically not meditation. It's a kind of meditation. It's just connecting to your heart and allowing this heart chakra, this energy center that we have here that Rachel is guiding us towards, to just open more. And then at the end of the day is making sure I'm using the same practice that she teaches to clear and detach all of the energies that I take in. And I can, as a HSP, a highly sensitive person, I can really feel when I've taken in other people's energies. And it was back to the question you asked earlier, another moment I had in the last few weeks was I'm just going to share this story because it was mind-blowing. A server came to the back and he was very busy and all kind of like stressed and anxious. And I thought he was annoyed at me, and I took in all this energy and internalized it as him being angry at me. And then I dropped into my heart and asked, is this mine? And my heart was like, no. And I stopped and I grew my light. And in that moment, I was like, for the last 29 years, I've been taking on other people's stuff. And it was like this light bulb moment, like, this isn't yours to feel. This is not yours. You don't need to feel that. As a man who's kind of on the sensitive side, as a HSP, I feel a lot, but I don't need to feel everyone's negative stuff. And so that was a huge light bulb moment. And then the rest of the evening, I was like, when he would come up to get drinks from me, I would grow my light, step into my power, and let him feel that. And within the next hour, he'd come out and I'd be like, "Are you all right, Will?" He's like, "Yeah, I just had a busy night." It was like, "It's nothing you did. I was really busy." And I was like, the old me would have been like, "Oh my God, I've done something so wrong," you know? So I can't remember what question you asked, but it brought up that story and I felt like I had to share it because it was an important one for my journey.
Yeah, it's so crazy because it literally happened to me a few weeks ago. I think also as an HSP, highly sensitive, we take on the collective energy. And so I had this moment where I was making a sandwich. I was fine. And all of a sudden, like, anxiety hit me so hard. And I was like, I dropped into my heart and I said, is this mine right now? Because I don't know where this came from. And I realized in that moment, this is not mine. And I was like, come in and let me love you. And literally within moments, like, it disappeared. And I realized this is power. This is truly what it means to be an alchemist. You know, you alchemize these energies, even if they are outside of you. Like, that is how powerful we are, you know? And I was like, oh my God, like, this is how I protect myself. And this is how I get through this life. Because for those of you who don't know what an HSP is, it's a highly sensitive person. And I didn't know about this term my whole life. Nobody told me. So I'm walking around being like, something's wrong with me. And now to understand that nothing is wrong with me, that in reality, it is a superpower and a gift to feel as much as we feel. But now that we can alchemize it into love is just the biggest game changer ever.
Totally. I remember being in most movies I watch, I end up shedding a tear and I would have to hide them from my girlfriend. And I was just feeling shame and embarrassment for feeling that. And I would be like, why the hell am I, like, no one else is crying. Like, she's not even crying. Why am I crying? But to go back to, this relates to a question you asked earlier. I remember after I listened to Paul Chek's podcast with Rachel, I then listened to her on Wellness Force with Josh Trent and then Mark Groves. Love all those guys. Do great work. Love their podcast. As I'm listening to it, she started talking about this term HSP, highly sensitive person. I can't remember which podcast it was on. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe that's me. Maybe. And the way she was talking about coaching, she was including how she said 20% of society are HSPs, and we have to include that in our as coaches, so we know we're educated. And the other thing she included was the fact that she trains people on how to deal with trauma. Now, I was wanting to be a coach. I had all the ambition. I had a lot of passion. I'd done a lot of self-development. But one thing that I was worried about was opening up somebody's wound and not being able to know how to handle it. And a lot of people, there was another coach that I was working with, coaches, and he was saying, like, just do it. You've just got to take these action steps and just take the leap of faith. But something inside of me was saying, no, like, what if you hurt somebody? And it was coming from a slight place of fear, but it was also coming from a place of love, because I didn't want to hurt anyone. And so when she was talking about the mystical life coach certification, what we're doing now, let's go. It's surreal that we're in this moment. But when she was talking about it, and she was saying how, we teach people how to handle other people's trauma, and really get trained in that art. That was one of the key things that was like, yes, this is what I need. This is one of the missing pieces to what I want. Because ultimately, I want to heal people. I don't want to open up someone's wound and trigger them or make them even worse or further traumatize them. And I've definitely, felt that from certain healing experience I've had where I've not felt ready to fully open up. That kind of really, that was one of the really big parts of why I wanted to work with her. And from what I've learned so far from her, I can honestly say that it works.
Yes. I mean, I leave every class feeling like I'm flying. You know what I mean? It gives you this feeling of, holy crap, like I feel unstoppable. And I think that's because we are unraveling our survival selves to really reveal our true selves. And the energy that just what's the word, just pushes through me is just, it's really unexplained. There really is no words for what we're experiencing. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. What I came to learn, just to further that point, is the reason why I felt that fear is because I hadn't gone deep enough into myself with the healing. So because I hadn't gone there all the way myself, I still had a lot of powerlessness, a lot of fear that was within me, which was a program that I was running. And then therefore that can be projected onto a potential client. The difference between every other program I've looked at online and every other coach that I've worked with is that Rachel guides you through your own healing. And that is your textbook. That is your reference. That is where you pull all your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience from, is your own self. And so to be able to bring that to a client is completely different than doing some 3-month online thing where you learn about how to talk the talk. You got to walk the walk, baby. That's what we're here for.
That's right. That's right. And for those people who don't know, who want to know more about the coaching program, she teaches us how to heal ourselves first. So This is very much of us going in first so that we can help. Because if we don't know how to heal ourselves, we have no business being out there trying to heal others when we're so broken. And so I think that's what's so extraordinary about this work. I've been a part of programs before. I see a lot of teachers out there, and I was so lost. Because all they're teaching you is manifestation. All they're teaching you is this very toxic, like, love and light and do this. And when you get caught up in that, it's just a whole other bucket of trauma that you're going to be experiencing because it's bypassing. You're just constantly bypassing. You know what I mean? And her work is, don't effing bypass. We're not bypass. You're feeling everything. You're feeling everything. And I think that's why this work has been so transformational for us. Danny, how would you describe where you are now? Now that you have, and I wanted it almost in 5 words. If you could describe in 5 words where you are now, what are the words that kind of jump up at you?
Healed, healing, powerful, peaceful, in the light.
Oh. I love that.
It's a journey. It does end. Your healing does end in some regard. There is a good amount we can do, and I'm still going through it, but I feel lighter, so much lighter than I started this program in October. It's February. Oh, it's March now. March 3rd. Wow, time's flying. It
is.
I think it was the end of October that we started on around that time, and so much lighter, so much more at peace. So everything becomes easier once you get rid of the things that you didn't even know that were troubling you. We get very used to living the lives of ourselves, and we can become numb and unconscious to the shadow aspects of ourselves. And sometimes we don't even realize, most of the time, we don't even realize what we're carrying around until we've cleared it. And you're like, wow, I thought everyone just felt like that and had to go through that. As someone who's struggled a lot with their mental health, the mental side of it, it's just night and day. It takes that being said, this takes a lot of work, as an extraordinary amount of work that you've got to do. But the mind doesn't produce the same thoughts because it's not. The mind is attached to the wounds. So as I've cleared out the wounds, the thoughts that are in my mind are much more pure and clear. So I'm living in a much easier place, so much less suffering, so much more grace. There's still going to be challenges. There's going to be a lot of those. But for now, just things are a lot smoother.
Yeah, I agree with you. Before we close up our episode, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of men that are going to hear this episode, and a lot of fears are going to come up, of, oh, but I'm a man and I don't want to be. But obviously, I think, Danny, when I witness you and when I witness you speak, I know that you are here to help many men and women, but a lot of men come home to themselves. What would you say to the men out there who are in fear, who are letting their ego kind of drive them, but who want to do the work? What would you say to them?
There is a way out. I would say to them to start tapping into your heart, which is a process, and it for me it required a lot of guidance, but the answers all lie in your heart, and if you feel anything other than peace, you're running a program. So if you're not in peace all day every day, and unless you're enlightened, you're not, you're running a program. I still run many, we all still run many. But if you're ready to change, take the leap. That's what this institution is here for. I would say if you feel it a calling deeper inside, because I always judge things off. Not I hate the word judge, but I always base things off my heart and what is my heart saying. And when I feel that inner push, then that's when I know it's time to step up. So if you are a man out there and listening, or you're a woman, take the leap, because your life will change drastically. And that's what we as coaches are all here for. We're here to grow our lights and all of yours, and make this world a better place so we can all be peaceful.
Yes. Obviously, Danny, we're going to be hearing more from you because you're going to be on every episode with me. Yes, you are. But thank you so much for all of your insights. For anybody at home who is really interested, visit mastersofselfuniversity.com. If you want to work with one of our wonderful coaches, if you want to work with Danny, just visit the site, okay? And do a free consultation. Trust me, okay? You're not going to regret it. Right? Danny, right? Can you back me up on this?
100%.
Okay.
It's your life will change when you start really stepping into your power and your light. And there's no better place that I found than this institution. So I just can't wait we're in a massive period of growth as an organization. And if you're interested in, anything that we're talking about, check out the website, jump on Instagram, and hit us up I'm on Instagram, Danny Morley 14.
Yeah, yes.
Hit up Ellie J. Let's go. We'll chat to you. You have any questions, you let us know, because we're here to serve, and we're here for you.
Yes. For everyone at home, please subscribe. Leave us 5 stars. Leave a comment if this really resonated with you. And we will see you guys very soon. Bye.
Bye.